All right, so Norton's coming along a little bit. Right, so here's the primary with the AMC clutch, the single row primary chain, the rotor for the alternator, and then here's the primary cover, and this is the bolt that used to go through here, which would hold the footrest up, and that's pretty much it. And then here is the stator in here, pretty mucked up. That's pretty messy in there, as you can see, but we'll clean it. And so this bolt came through that hole here, and then see, this is and then the footrest, which is here, would have bolted through there to that. So that's good. Now, I just found my Whitworth tools, open wrenches, Whitworth British Standard, straight up Whitworth, and the original Norton Atlas toolkit. Well, what's left of it anyway, which is the Dad's Atlas, as I've said over and over again, is the same year as the P11 and shares the same engine as the P11. So this is fantastic. This is very useful. Everything's going to be much easier now that I found these. That's my new clutch cable over here. I've taken off the left-hand head pipe. These are the new bolts for the primary cover and the new drain plug here. Although once we get a belt drive, there won't be any oil running in that case. This is an interesting fix that I'm going to have to replace this nut, because I don't know who did this, but this is not what I want. It looks like they put JB Weld and then they put a part of an electrical box nut on the end of it. So I'm going to have to buy a new one of these. But it's nice to see that the rotor comes off nice and easy. Original Lucas, which means it's about 50 years old, and I'm glad I have a new one. And then down here, you can see the original gear and the clutch. I'm going to, when I replace this with a belt drive, the clutch is going to get replaced with a later Commando model, which will be fantastic. Hold on, there we go. Here we have the fuel feeds. I'm going to have to take this all apart to get into the magneto so I can install the Thor spark ignition. But luckily I found my old trusty Triumph clutch tool, which will allow me to take the clutch apart, although I'm going to have to get a clutch puller, so that's not entirely useful yet. But she's coming along, and for the handlebar switches, I've decided I'll dismantle these because there won't be any turn signals. I'm not going to run turn signals, so I'll just use my arms. But here's the high-low beam and the horn button. That's an XS 650 switch, and will come in nice handy. These were billed as being gum rubber, and they're not, so I'm going to cut that off of there and buy actual gum rubber. And this is my beloved twin leading shoe drum brake. Which is the same as Dad had fit on his Atlas. I quite love them, especially the vent. It's a fantastic brake properly set up. And what I'll do is I'll get a strengthening kit for it, stiffening kit, which is a set of plates that go in here and keep it from flexing under pressure. And I got new springs. These aren't them, but I got new springs for the front and the back. What I have to do next is somebody put a bolt up here, and this is what slides into the slider on the fork, so I have to cut the nut off, and I'll do that. My cat really wants into the basement. So that's the front brake. And then here's the rear brake. And what's really neat is this, yeah, I know, cat. The axle that goes through there is 2 pieces. So you can remove the rear axle and leave the chain and the drum attached to the swing arm and just remove the rear wheel, so you can change your tire roadside without having to dismantle the entire rear chain, which I think is absolutely glorious, personally. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretty much clean the basement, or, you know, this side of it at least. And then the other thing, before I get rid of the camera, is when I get the belt drive, I'll be replacing the single adjuster with a double adjuster. There will be 2 of these, one on either side, because with a belt drive it's really important that the clutch is perfectly oriented, parallel with the engine sprocket, so that the belt doesn't wear out quicker. Yeah, and this is the head steady, which will go to a bracket that doesn't exist anymore, but Jake's going to weld that back on. Poor cat. Mabel, I can't let you in here, because then you'll vanish up into the ceiling, and I don't want to fucking deal with it right now. The next thing I have to do is take the forks off and completely rebuild them. I got these here, see? Hold on. Oh, there they are. This is a rebuild kit for the front forks with new bushings, steel and bronze, and seals, and new gaskets that would have disintegrated in the last 20 years. And then this will go in here and mount on either side like that, and it will hold the fender, and it will also give extra strength to the forks. Cat, give it up. I'm not letting you in. I'm not letting you in. Stop it. And then that's the choke, brake, throttle, clutch, high beam, low beam, horn, headlight, and pilot light switch, as well as the main switch for power. All right. That's it. All right, really quick. This is my new 200 watt 16 amp stator. made by Wassel. And it's 2-wire, just like the one that it's replacing. The new rotor, also Wassel. The new final drive chain. The upgraded rectifier regulator, and it's got a capacitor for running without a battery if I were continuing to use the mag, which unfortunately I'm not for a few years. These are new springs for the Auto Advance, which I will be continuing to use. These are the new gasket set for the Atlas engine. And then, as you can see, I have cleaned up the basement a bit. I've still got a ways to go. I've got to put the factory toolkit for the Ural away, but I have picked up a lot of stuff. I'm starting to get organized for the, so there's my new internal dampers where I'm keeping the head pipe, tail light, headlight ears, some tools, the original factory wrenches, the wrench for taking off the head pipes, and these nuts here, the fin nuts, and then the clutch tool, the little adjust bracket for the fender, Whitworth and British Standard, Whitworth, gasket material, cables. Over here we have the Thor Spark ignition and coil, some handlebar tools, those are, just skip what I just said, fuel taps, fuel filters, carburetor bits, that's the top cover for the bearing, fork rebuild kit, springs, more tools, adjusters for the handlebars and throttle, and then that's it. But we're coming together, and there's the Harley in all of her glory with her Eaton gearbox. So this engine's from, well, it was built in the 70s, but it was designed in the 50s-ish, early 50s probably. And then this engine was built in the late 60s, but was designed in the mid to late 40s. So they're actually fairly comparable engines, except, you know, because this one was built in the 70s, it has a triple row primary chain versus the single row primary chain. 73, 1000 cc, and 67, 750 cc. I think about 65, 70 horsepower and about 55 horsepower, but when I'm done with it, she'll make 70. And then I need a side stand for my bike at some point. This one's had a lot of little upgrades over the years. It's a glorious machine. It's great fun. And interestingly enough, this bike has a right foot shift, same as this bike. Because the gearbox is over here. It's before they standardized. So the shifter is here, kickstart is here, and it is up 1 for first gear and then down 3 instead of down 1 and up 3. Should be fun to switch back and forth. And then the tack drive would be here, and I will be installing a tack, so it will have the speedo here and the tack here. And then the speedo drive would go off the rear wheel, which means the cable's about 5 feet long. But it's all in the process. Anyway, that's it. And then over here you have my box of spare parts. all random Norton parts mostly. And then, of course, my the Ural Retro, which is a 750, which also makes about 50 horsepower. I love bikes that make about 50 horsepower. They make me very happy. But yeah, see, much cleaner. We're getting better about things. We're going to clean this whole place up. And then here is my Norton poster, sent to me for my 21st birthday by the Norton Motorcycle Company that was in Oregon, made by Kenny Dreer. And they went out of business, and now they're being made in England. They had to really rework that engine to get it to where they could produce them. But it's a lovely bike. And the poster was signed by Heather, who was the model. It says, "To Jack, we'll get you a bike one of these days. XOXO Heather." And 21-year-old me really quite liked her. Anyway, that's it.